Hello, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be speaking about Cardano, and can Cardano actually go to 160, 100 times Xing it? Well, let's get into that today. If you haven't already subscribed, drop a comment below, hit the bell, and get the latest news in cryptocurrency. Taking a look at Cardano, as it sits right now, Cardano is at $1.66. Actually, it's doing really great, and considering yesterday we had a beautiful candle, it is actually perfect. However, sitting right now, Cardano is bleeding a little bit. We do have a little bit of an ugly candle, but the daily hasn't closed just yet, so it has a good opportunity to actually adjust itself and go back up, right? So Cardano is doing really fantastic when we're looking at this. Let's look. So Cardano is sitting right now as the third, pretty good considering that yesterday is still much better, so it is in the plus. So it actually finally broke out of $1.50. Not much, not by much, but it is. And you know, we haven't seen such a good candle like we've seen yesterday, for example, in quite some time actually. So the last beautiful candle that we actually had was at the beginning of November. So it shows a really big promising. And even before that, to really give you some hope, that last big candle that we had a truly big breakthrough came from in August, and that actually it took a big run for it, right? And actually, when that happened, it started to make an all-time high back here, so as well. So that gives us a good plus. So it could potentially go through, and it's exactly what we wanted to see, especially since after the smart contract launch and this information kind of went sideways. So it's doing very, very well. I would expect it to go back up, actually. So it is, and as we spoke before, like a lot of people are telling, like, oh, Cardano can go to like $10 by December. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen because in order to do that, it needs to exactly like go up by like 1,000%, 2,000%, right? That's not going to necessarily happen, but what can happen is it can actually get a little bit closer to setting that goal. If you think about like breaking $3 again, that's a possibility by like let's say January, February, right? March, April, it can probably get to about five, depending on the events that are going to happen, right? So that's a big plus. So big, beautiful news for Cardano. So I'm still pretty bullish on it. So we're gonna see. It's going. I think it's going to actually really turn some heads, right? Even in the past couple of days, we still have some good candles, and it's a good upside to it because we definitely want to stay in the upper side of this. And as long as we have a few more days in another week, for example, sitting on this same kind of pattern, kind of flipping the script here, flipping that pattern, that trend, that's what we want, right? For the weekly, looking at Cardano, we as well are doing pretty good when we're looking at it in this spectrum, right? Considering that last week was pretty bad, and when we look at this week, it's doing pretty decent. So I think it's going to actually have a chance to actually buy back into that. People are getting a little less worried. Speaking of Bitcoin, so Bitcoin is still struggling. Honestly, it's fighting so hard to keep away from 55K, right? So today it's sitting at 56 in 8 and some change, right? So it's sitting there, but Bitcoin is, and that's what we knew, right? So we already called that Bitcoin is actually going to kind of hang out there, 54, 55, right? 57, honestly, and that's not going to get much bigger than that. And a lot of people are thinking because as soon as we get to the tops, like right here, as soon as we start to have like a new top, it kind of starts bobbling out, and you can see that from from November, you can see that from October. You can so both times in October. So each time it starts to do it, it starts to struggle. The same that is coming through. Even here, so it makes a pretty big difference in when we're looking at this. So I'm not too bullish on this. I'm actually kind of bearish on Bitcoin. It's kind of showing some signs of actually hanging out and maybe possibly a cap, right? But it could potentially go to 100K. But I think it's going to take a long time. It does take a very long time. Some trends can actually stay for a while. So keep your eyes out on that. So Bitcoin on the daily here is not so great, right? All right. So taking a look too, let's speak about Ethereum. Ethereum is still doing fantastic. We had a really great run the past couple of days here. However, like yesterday, not so hot, right? But it is getting bought into. Speaking of today, it is that dip's getting bought back into. Uh, Again, it's that same kind of pattern, like two and then one. So Ethereum's still breaking out. It's still doing pretty good. I think it's really going to start taking a run for it. So we've had that several times too, like the really like some ugly candles here, and then really kind of breaking out and running for it. So we do have a new line here. I think that's the line of support. I think that's going to be the bottom of it for a while. We can kind of like as long as we can stay from there, as long as even if we can kind of break past that, right? Even if we make this, if we even move a sideways for a day or two, but create a new line here of support, it's still good news, right? It's still better than down here, or even further, like how we were back in September. So Ethereum is still doing rather awesome. Looking at Litecoin, Litecoin has actually been rallying pretty great too as well. Litecoin's sitting at $205. It is buying into that red candle that we had yesterday. Great. I think it's going to start rallying even more as well. So we'll keep an eye on for it. Looking at the market as a whole, Bitcoin right now for the weekly is sitting at 3.30 in the plus for the weekly, and today, as we're speaking, it is at about 0.02% in minus, so it's not doing horrible, right? Ethereum, though, now for the weekly for Ethereum is sitting at 12.08% for the weekly. Now, on the daily, it's 0.20%, so also not bad at all. But I think Ethereum could potentially get past, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But Ethereum could potentially gets flipped here, so we'll definitely see. Now, Tether's kind of like in between here for the weekly and the days, the same, like 0.03%, so not the greatest. But Solana, and Solana is one of those coins that I've been saying for a while is actually doing really, really good. 22, almost 23% for the weekly, very, very good. 2.56% for the 24-hour period, again, fantastic. And speaking of Cardano, what I'm telling you, it's doing pretty good. Actually, really good considering what we have. Cardano is sitting at 7.14% right in the green for the weekly and 571 for the day, which is honestly very beautiful. XRP2 is actually kind of back in the green finally at 2.52 at 7-day and 0.05 for the last 24 hours. Polkadot too, keep an eye out for Polkadot. Matic, I think, is really going to make some changes here. 2.63% for the 7-day and 0.21% for the 24-hour period. Doge 2 is also up for the week at 5.5. Terra Luna. Terra Luna is honestly killing it. For the weekly, it's 75% up. Really, really good. Really great run. And for the day, it's up by 10%. Almost half. And even Avalanche is actually catching some bonuses from it. Now, for the weekly, it is 4.21. Now, today, it's sitting at 5% in the minus, right? So, not too bad. Shiba as well is also kind of picking it back up for the week. So all these coins that we were speaking about, I'm sorry, Matic. All of these coins that we were speaking about before were kind of like yesterday when they were kind of down, they're kind of bleeding out a little bit. They're starting to reverse, and that's really, really good, and that's what we want to see. Matic, that's the one. Matic, 36 and 54, so 36.5 for the week and 874. So the point is that you really want to watch Polkadot and Matic. So Polygon and Matic together are going to make some changes. Even Litecoin, watch out for Litecoin Lite here. Is going to do some things, I believe, as well. Almost 6% for the weekly as well. So keep an eye on for that one as well. Even Axie Infinity, you can see it's actually up to about 9.5 almost. For the weekly. So they're both actually really making some big, big changes. All right, guys, that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe, drop a comment. See you next time.